Tell you how this day started. We knew we had an obligation because you'd come all the way from Montreal. So I wake up at 10:42, and I'm going, you gotta be kidding. I wake up at 7:30 every morning, and I'm going, I must have been drugged. But I found out I'd only had like 3 or 4 hours sleep in the last 2 days, so I was just catching up. So I said, I gotta have some coffee. So we take showers, we come down, we get the coffee, we push the elevator, doesn't come. Phone rings. I run back in, answer the phone. Josh, he's gotta be down in the sun. I say, I'll see you, I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee. So we go back, the elevator still doesn't come. I'm going, wow, 2 elevators, 240 rooms, everybody's leaving at the same time. Finally we go down, we go get our coffee. We're over in the coffee and I say, Josh, I told Josh I was going to come back and meet him at the pool and maybe get a bite to eat. I look at her and I go, oh, let him eat pizza.
Like Mary Antoinette.
Yeah. He said, I'm going to go get a pizza. I go,
now he's can't teach.
He's like one of my kids. I go, he's all right. He can do it himself.
Poor Diana's stressing out because of guilt.
Diana's stressing out because
go with the flow.
She has too much on her plate.
Right.
She's my agent.
Right.
She's my lawyer. She's my confidant. She's my lover. She's taking care of my dad. She's taking care of my aunt. She handles all the emails.
What's wrong with your dad, if I may ask?
He has a broken hip, and he's recovering from it, and then he got pneumonia, and we found out that the nursing home was killing him. We said, give him another x-ray. This was the day before we left. So the x-ray guy comes in, the technician from Napa, and he was an amazing guy. He had running shoes on. He had a little truck he double parked. He runs in, he sets him up, puts on the little steel lip, puts the thing right on his frickin' chest, takes the picture, and he goes, I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye, I'm late. We have a good conversation. And I could see, I said, is this a drive-by shooting? And if I figured he's getting $100 a pop,
right.
he does 12 of them a day.
Wow.
So he's making $1,200 a day, running around in his little machine, shooting x-rays. The only thing he's got to make sure is he doesn't fry his nuts. So I go, and then the x-ray comes back at 8 o'clock, or we find the x-ray. And he hasn't been just coughing. He had full-blown pneumonia.
Wow.
And they had misdiagnosed it. He was on the way out. I was wondering why he was listless. So I said, hey, Dad, what'd they put him on? And Diana goes, they got him on Lavaquin. I go, oh, top shelf drug. This is it. I said, Dad, 2 of these and you're gonna be dancing the jig.
Writing poems.
Exactly. So I said, Lavaquin's a new drug. It's great for what you got, and you'll be up and around. And so we left and then came to Toronto. Did the interview with Pete Rose, the dinner with Pete Rose, did the showing last night, and then...
How is Charlie Hustle?
How is Charlie Hustle? Pete Rose has got orange hair. Yeah, he got a little spiky orange hair, and Yastrzemski's dyed his hair and it's kind of orange. And I looked at both of them and I said, you guys go to Syracuse? And they didn't get it, but they're...
I have a solution to Pete Rose's dilemma with the Hall of Fame. He should go in as an expo. It's the happy compromise.
He can't. That's a nice try. But in baseball, he's not allowed in big league ballparks.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He can't even go to Cincinnati spring training site. He's banned from being around major league facilities because he's a bad boy that he gambled on baseball and that he defiled Section 14, Rule 19, that you were not allowed to bet on anything.
But Ty Cobb killed someone and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, and Cap Anson was a full-blown racist, and Comiskey basically defrauded all of his players and forced them to...
I did my research.
Yeah, forced him to Ciotti to throw the ball games and made Shoeless Joe a pariah, or I'll open my own Hall of Fame, and I will put Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe, and all the characters.
Would you be in it?
Oh, I would be in it too. I'd be the curator.
All right, so how were you approached to do the documentary in Cuba?
I got a phone call, and I think he was in a mobile home. Josh was in a mobile home on the beach overlooking Malibu, and I thought he was, are you Rockford? You a private dick, you got to sell your place. And then he financed and mortgaged his life and got in touch with Brett Rapkin, and the two of them got together a great crew, and we headed out of the country, and we did it on a song and a prayer.
So someone called you out of the blue and you said, sure.
Sure, I'll go. You want to go back to Cuba? In a heartbeat. And they sounded great. You know, I listen, and enthusiasm can show through.
Okay.
You know, you're only allowed one impression at your first impression in life. You know, and that's the problem with first impressions. You only get one.
Right.
You know, and I can tell. Cy Peterson, a guy who called me from a bar, the Fisherman's Creek bar in Black Creek, BC. I didn't hang up on him, and he and I are best friends.
Oh,
A drunk called me from Australia with a scotch in his hand, said he had to talk to me tonight, and I sat down and talked to him for a half an hour, and
That's cool.
trying to educate the Australians.
How to play ball?
Well, the largest baseball game, the largest crowd ever to attend a baseball game was in Melbourne, Australia.
Really?
120,000 for an exhibition game, a pre-Olympic exhibition game, when the Australian Olympics were last held. So that's a little bit of trivia that you don't know.
Maybe. I'll Google it.
You Google.
I'll Google it.
Yeah, you don't trust anything you hear and believe half of what you see. Or is it
If it's
believe
not on
nothing
the-
of what you hear and only half of what you
If
see?
it's not on the internet.
It must not be right.
Exactly.
But you cannot use Wikipedia as a source for your term paper at Middlebury College or Yale. It will not be accepted by the professor.
While in Cuba, how was the hospitality? Were you accepted with open arms or standoffish?
No, the Cubans love us. They love Americans. They go out of their way. They say, you know, we're not enemies of you. We're not enemies. It's just our governments seem to disagree
Right.
to the highest level. And, you know, it's the Cuban people are just
So you'd go
terrific.
back.
Oh, I go back in a heartbeat. I'd love to go back. I just went to this gallery right up here in Yorkville, and they were the kid I was telling you about from he's from Toronto but lived in BC.
Right.
He shot a lot of shots of Veradero in Cuba, and a scene from the balcony of Capone's place in Veradero,
Wow.
which is a beautiful Castilian type sky, thunderhead off in the distance, facing Miami. And just beautiful artwork, minimalist artwork that I really like. And Cuba is a long garden island with a lot of coastline and nothing but potential. You know, nothing but potential. Great beaches.
Nice. So if Fidel one day steps down, due to
He has
nature-
stepped down.
He has stepped down?
He has stepped down in all ways except that he hasn't died yet.
Okay.
But he's made remarkable recoveries from colon cancer, and you know, he's hard. He's outlived all the way from Eisenhower
Wow.
all the way up.
It's expressive.
You got Eisenhower, you got Kennedy,
LBJ,
you got LBJ, you got Nixon,
Ford,
Ford.
Carter.
Carter's still alive though.
Yeah, that's right. Reagan.
He's gone.
Reagan. 6 presidents deceased now.
Yeah, I guess Gerald Ford just passed on.
Oh, that's right, for Christmas. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I know you had answered this at the show yesterday, but of per capita, where would you rank Cuban baseball players? Like, are they major league material?
They're, I say the Cubans are #1 in the Caribbean. They have proved it time and time again. They win the Olympics all the time. They're the greatest ball players. I don't like the way they manage games nowadays. They tend to bore you to death with long, drawn-out games with a lot of relief changes, and they change the tempo more than a salsa dance. But as far as individual players,
Right.
man, they are good. They got the best shortstop in the world, plays for them, and some of the best pitchers in the world. I mean, the guys that matched up against Daisuke, and Daisuke got most valuable player in the World Baseball Classic.
So 25 Cuban players, you as the manager, do they perform? Would they exceed? Would they be a great team?
I would put 25 Cubans and I wouldn't put a manager.
Okay.
You know, I just let them do it on their own and let them play. And you take the best 25 and the best 25 U.S., you'd have a long, drawn-out game that would end up 1-0 somewhere in the 23rd day. That's how good their pitching is
like
and how
cricket.
good, yeah. It is. It's good pitching. Good pitching gets out good hitting and vice versa.
What type of game do you prefer? A game that's a pitching duel or a slugger festival?
I like a game with no fences,
Right.
and I like a game, a pitcher's duel where the ball's put in play with not a lot of strikeouts, a lot of tremendous defensive plays, a lot of guys throwing out at third, throwing out at second, throwing out at first, throwing out at home. Those are the games that are most exciting. You know, it could be a 7-6 game, it could be a 2-1 game, you know, it could be any game that is performed quickly with remarkable plays.
Nice, nice. Okay, let's talk about your family heritage. Do you think you were born to play baseball?
Wow, I was actually born to defeat the British Empire, but my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother, Mary Queen of Scots, was extricated from the throne by Elizabeth I.
That's right.
So that was what I was destined to do.
Right.
And then I found out through the novel that just came out by Dan Brown called The Da Vinci Code
Right.
that I'm a direct descendant of Jesus Christ. It was actually two Brits from the BBC that put that out there. So basically I was put on this planet to save mankind from himself. And in that to play baseball.
Oh, nice. There's a backup.
There's a backup.
There's a backup.
Well, baseball is the game that is used to keep the spirit and the body in order. In other words, you have to have a strong mind in a strong body and control your emotions. If you can do all three things at a perfect level, you can attain a level of perfection on this planet. In my problem, it's 2 out of 3. I got a sound mind and a sound body, and I just can't control my emotions. So I've been working on it.
99% of the human race can't control their emotions.
That's my other job.
To control the human race?
Well, there was a couple of kids walking down the street, and they were obnoxious, and they were out of shape, overweight, drink too much Pepsi. And by the grace of God, the last one ran across the street, across the signal, and a car stopped and should have ran over her.
Right.
And that's why we still reproduce, because we got to weed out the dumb ones.
That's right.
So she was lucky, you know, and we were criticizing her because of her bad behavior behind us and let them pass,
Right.
only to see that our actions of letting her pass almost led to her demise.
Wow. That's right. Wow.
So
Crazy.
it's funny, isn't it?
I guess. All right. Your father, your grandfather, your aunt, and your great aunt all played organized baseball.
Yes.
Was
My aunt's in the Hall of Fame. My grandfather played for the Hollywood Stars. We have pictures of him hitting. He hit a little bit like Ty Cobb, let go of the bat, hit off his front foot, was a line drive hitter, had a great arm. My aunt wasn't much of a hitter, but she was a hell of a pitcher.
She threw a perfect game.
Threw a perfect game in 1944, threw a no-hitter in 45, was injured in a serious collision at home plate and had to give up the game. Her mother, Hazel, my grandmother, broke her leg at 45, sliding into second base.
Wow.
So, and my dad played.
How was the second baseman?
I don't remember. I was 45. She was 90.
You're right.
Had to have been about 10 years before I was born.
Right. This picture, second baseman doesn't survive slide.
Yeah, actually, I was born. She was 47 years old.
Since you're quotable, and family members around you are quotable, I'm going to read this quote and your reaction. My father and my aunt Annabelle, who played in the All-American Girls Baseball League, she was the first woman to pitch a no-hitter. When you were told that, what was your reaction? Because you weren't alive when that happened, right?
I wasn't alive, no.
No.
She did it in 44.
Right.
I was -2.
-2.
I was -1 when she threw the no-hitter. And so then I was born probably to succeed after her. I threw 2 no-hitters against Drake High School in when I went to Terra Linda, but I never threw a no-hitter after that.
And then you go on to say she's the best athlete in the family. Did you learn that from watching her or from the stories before?
No, I was only told that.
Okay.
But that's from her perspective. My dad said she was good, but she was a woman, and therefore she couldn't have been quite as good as him. And if you take the Silver Bullets and you play them against an A-ball club,
right,
the Silver Bullets never win.
Oh, really?
They never win.
Never win.
The women are great athletes and they can play baseball, but based on the shape of their hips and everything
right,
else, that they can hit and throw pretty good. But when they get on first base and there's a ball hitting the gap, when they round second, their butts tend to drag them off to the outfield grass.
Okay.
Are you saying that those young ladies that do track and field that break
Run
these
up.
records are?
They can't hit though.
Yeah, he was
I
talking
know
about
that they
baseball.
can't hit.
But it's hard to get a decathlon quality athlete to play baseball.
I love this city.
No. We find it pretentious. We find it not as
Corporate.
It's different.
It is.
People, it's different. They don't take care of their homeless as well. Maybe, I don't know.
Now you're speaking countries,
No,
No,
Montreal and
cities.
Toronto.
cities.
They do.
Torontonian versus a Calgarian versus someone from Montreal
I'm from
versus small,
Montreal.
is that La Belle Provence.
This is joie la vie. All right, here's another quote taken from your father, which I picked from RedSoxTimes.com. Son, you're joining the Boston Red Sox, a fine organization. Now, if you can pitch like we both know you can and keep your mouth shut, you'll end up being with them for a very long time. What did your father know that the rest of the world did not know?
He knew that when I opened my mouth, I was a flaming liberal and thereby disruptive to the conservative forces of capitalism, and thereby a labor, Che Guevara / Ginger Goodwin / Samuel Gomper / all the great labor guys, and Frank Capra, if there's someone less fortunate than me, I will be with him. If there's someone incarcerated, I shall try and spring him. And that was the nature of my sensitivity, which is something my father doesn't have. But
And he told you this in the 1960s.
he told me this in '69. He says, you're Irish Catholic, you drink a lot, all you got to do is keep your mouth shut, you'll go far in that organization. And I said, as I always say, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
All right. Okay, continuing on with the Red Sox, in the documentary, your teammate Fred Lynn summarizes your performance, but he adds a qualifier. For a left-hander in Fenway, that's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe, what disadvantages does a left-hander have in that ballpark?
None. Left-hander has no advantages unless he's smart and knows how to pitch and can keep the ball to right field and right center field, where Freddie Lynn and Dwight Evans can catch the ball. Don't walk anybody, keep the ball in the ballpark. Line drives tend to be singles by right-handed hitters. If you can keep them from going into the screen, you have an advantage. But you've got to realize that the word left-handed, gauche, sinistre, and Italian, they're all evil words, and they are the mark of the devil, and thereby the nuns slap your left hand when you write with your left hand.
Was your hand slapped?
My hand was slapped many a time,
Were you ever told to pick up the pencil in the opposite
It just forces your left hand to come into this crippling mode that just kind of goes up.
While playing in Boston, were you ever swept up with Bostonians' anxiety over Babe Ruth being with the Yankees and the Red Sox never win it all?
I started that when Dan Shaughnessy came to me and asked about the curse of the Bambino. Or no, he asked me why the Red Sox cannot win.
Right.
And I said, why don't you dig up Babe Ruth's body and ask him? And that started the basic search for the curse of the Bambino. And the fact that he lived on a pond out in Sudbury, and supposedly after a party he threw his piano into a lake after a brouhaha. So they've been looking for his piano to this day. you know, as thinking that the revival of the piano will break the curse. But as Mike Adams said, it's all right to go searching for Babe Ruth's piano, just don't go looking for his organ.
You've had great success against the Yankees, more than most people. Was there?
I laugh at my own stuff.
Was there a method to your madness in beating the Yankees? Like,
no, the fact that they were a horseshit organization when I came in 69,
right.
They were owned by CBS, I think, and they were, anytime the Times Tribune owns the Cubs, go figure, CBS owned the Yankees, you know, anytime you're a media outlet and you try to control the team and stuff, you're going to have negative results because you don't know the game. And Steinbrenner, as much as we dislike him, is a fan. And he brought money and the love of winning back to the Yankees, and that's why they became a dynasty again. But I was still 12-5. I could beat the Yankees. I could beat them today if I went out, I think.
if you wanted to.
If I wanted to. If they allowed me the opportunity to pitch against the Yankees, I could beat them. A-Rod had hit 5 weak ground balls off me. Well, hopefully not 5. That meant he got up 5 times. It meant I gave him a shitload of runs.
Is there any Yankee history that you love to beanball?
No.
No?
I'm not a headhunter, and I couldn't be a headhunter because I didn't really throw hard enough. I can drill you in the ribs, but I have a hard time hitting you in the head.
All right. Now, I'm going to bring up this question because I was born in 1975. You're also in the World Series. Right, so what is it like starting Game 7 knowing that 71 million viewers are watching and yet their emotions in the palm of your left hand?
Rose's Cantina, I saw it. And boom, deep in my heart. But I kept writing. Muzak. Who's that singing that?
Marty Robbins.
That's Marty Robbins in the background. This is so cute. Oh, don't. Oh, this is oh, I know. I cry. If you put this song on and Marty Robbins sang it, you could get real crocodile tears out of my eyes. That was right in Messina, New Mexico. What was the question again?
Game 7, 71 million viewers. You have all their emotions in your left hand.
That's what someone said.
You're right.
I didn't have their emotions in any hand. You know, they had to watch, and I performed brilliantly up until about the 6th inning, and I was done for after we did not turn the double play.
Right.
As soon as we did not turn the double play on bench, and I had 2 outs, and I was storming around the mound, I was emotional, I was mad.
Right.
It's the obligation of the manager or the pitching coach to come out and talk to me then.
Right.
Not after I hang the curveball to Tony Perez and he hits a 2-run homer. Get me out of the game, settle me down, explain to me the situation.
Right.
Listen, Tony Perez is out there. We can't walk him. I don't want you to pitch around him because then you got a Foster coming up and you're out of the ball game. If we don't give up those 3 runs or 2 runs in the 6th inning, you know, we may have won that ball game. But if we had won game 2,
So there's a lot of hindsight.
if we had won game 2, which we had the potential of winning, we had a 2-1 lead in the top of the 9th inning. If we had won game 2, when Fisk hit the home run at 12:43 in the morning on game 6, that would have been the clincher for the World Championship. And the town bells in Boston would still be ringing today.
All right, in 1979, you're now at Montreal Expo. Can you describe your mood heading into that season?
I was depressed. I was depressed when I got traded on December 7th. And then I was mad, and after getting mad, I said I'm going to get even, so I started a long-distance running program. I didn't shave. I had long hair and a beard. I come to spring training, and they try to throw me out.
Really?
Yeah, Warren Cromartie talked the cops into let me in the ballpark. They were almost going to arrest me in Daytona and take me to jail.
Because of
my appearance.
your parents?
My appearance.
Oh, your appearance.
My appearance was not that of becoming of a Montreal Expo, but
That's weird.
they let me keep the beard, and I went on and won my first 10 games with the Expos in '79. I was 10-4 with the Expos.
That's good. That's awesome.
So I came out and had a good start, yeah.
Good. Now, in the American League and in the National League, you work with Hall of Fame catchers, Carlton Fisk and Gary Carter.
Yeah, I was very blessed.
How important is a pitcher and a catcher relationship?
I think it's very important that he catch the ball when you throw it.
That's right.
And that he do not do too much thinking,
Right.
because thinking hurts the ball club. And let me control the game and the tempo.
So
And
pitcher controls.
pitcher controls the tempo by the way he delivers the ball, in the fashion he delivers it. And the whole thing of pitching is deceiving the hitter and upsetting his timing. And the catcher has to know that. Fisk was very, very deliberate, and I forced him to speed up his tempo with me. Carter was very quick. I had nothing to do with him. In fact, I slowed him down a few times. But they were both exceptionally great catchers. Carter was the quickest cat I'd ever seen behind the plate. And he was the first catcher with ADD ever to make it to the ball.
Yeah, reluctantly as an Expo in his opinion.
You know what? He is above all things. I always said if a load of horse shit fell on the 401, he would sell it before he got scraped up. He was a marketer. He did that in New York. You know, he politicked to get into the Hall of Fame. And it's easier for catchers, I think, to get in the Hall of Fame because it's a tough position.
Right.
And it's supposedly you're the general of the ball club. So there are a lot of catchers in the Hall of Fame.
Wow. Like
He's in the Hall of Fame, but Blyleven isn't. Go figure.
Okay, I'm going to name 3 people that in Montreal they don't like. Not because they're not great people. Willie Stargell.
Willie Stargell, they do not like him because he hit the home run off of Wayne Twitchell where they put the seat up there.
Right.
And in '79, he beat us in a ball game that allowed the Pirates to go on to be world champions.
Mike Schmidt.
Mike Schmidt, 1981, hit a 3-run homer off of Stan Bonson next to the last game of the season, and the Philadelphia Phillies went on to be world champions.
At the expense of the Expos. And now,
Rick Monday.
Exactly.
We can know where that question was going.
Exactly.
Pitch hit against Steve Rogers, hit the home run that put the LA Angels on the track to be world champions. But I think the Yankees beat them.
Dodgers.
The Dodgers, did they win world championship that year?
They won.
So 3 years in a row, 79, 80, and 81.
Right.
The Expos, by the grace of God and bad management and bad luck, could have been world champions 3 years in a row.
Would that, if that was the case, would the team still be in Montreal
Oh,
today?
the team would have a new ballpark.
Right.
It would be just below the new Forum where the Expos play, beneath that hill where those apartments are going in,
Right.
where Mitch Milnick and I and a bunch of guys tried to build a ball field. We actually shot a commercial down there. My daughter, we made a mound, we weed whacked around, and we threw the ceremonial first pitch on the new Ebbets Field of Montreal. We were going to design it just like Ebbets Field. And it wasn't allowed to be built because a guy named Claude Brochu embezzled money that should have gone to the player development and to salaries of good Expo players that would have brought more wins and victories and more fans, and thereby the Expos would still be in Montreal. So I cite Brofman's relationship with Gary Carter is the first downfall, Brochu as the second downfall, and then Laurier and that little Kabbalist midget son of a bitch son-in-law that ran him into the ground after that, and then sold him down the river like a bad turd.
Well, you covered a lot of points with that one question.
Sampson, that was his name, that prick.
Donald Sampson? Or?
Donald Sampson. The only thing good about him is you knocked his teeth off, you could set a drink on top of his head, and you get a blowjob.
Nice. 1994. The second strike in 15 years. Did you think that was going to be the end of Major League Baseball?
No.
No?
Strikes come and strikes go. The Bolivian tin miners, they struck, and the Army went in and killed 500 of them. They're still digging tin in Bolivia.
Right, but... Alright, I'm going to move along to contemporary, I can't even say it. Can you say that word, contemporary?
Contemporary?
Versus classic word association. So I'm throwing out 2 different names from 2 different
Contemporary versus classic.
Exactly.
That would be modern versus Greek revivalist.
Yeah.
Did you hear that one about Samson?
No.
He's so short, the only good thing is you could shave his head, rest a drink on his head, knock his teeth out, and get a blowjob.
Okay, Josh Gibson.
That is precious. Josh Gibson?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm surprised I knew
Couldn't set
that.
a drink on his head. He'd shove it up your ass. He could hit. That guy could hit, you know. That guy could take a chair leg and hit a home run.
David Ortiz.
Same difference. You don't want to piss him off. And he's got to stay in shape. He has a propensity to getting large this year, and his back could slow down. But all he's got to do is get off the plate and just pepper that left field wall all day long.
Satchel Paige.
Satchel Paige, another idol of mine, you know. Won more games than anybody in the history of baseball, professional or otherwise. And I am approaching his record, and if I can live long enough, maybe it's about 125, I may beat him.
Oil Can Boyd.
Oil Can Boyd, a reincarnation of Satchel Paige, you know. He has the long tom fastball, the overhand yacker, straight change, and he's got the vernacular to boot. And he was born in Meridian, Mississippi, and I don't know where Satchel was born, but...
The old Roman Charles Comiskey.
Oh, Charles Comiskey. I would say he is has 666 tattooed on his forehead. It's the mark of the devil because he was refused to pay his players sufficiently or on time, and thereby caused the 1919 scandal with the Chicago White Sox. He's in the Hall of Fame, but Shoeless Joe isn't. Go figure.
George Steinbrenner.
George Steinbrenner, as much as I dislike him as a fan, and spends his money wisely and has more money than to do it. He has the Yes Network, and but you know the difference between Finley and what did the manager of their team, the one Billy Martin, said the difference between their owner Steinbrenner and Reggie Jackson. He says, well, one's a convicted liar and the other's a convicted felon.
Okay, there will just be a few more of these. Judge Landis.
Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis, one of the bigger assholes on the planet Earth. He actually sentenced Jack Johnson and on the Mann Law, and it was 2 years after the fact that he had transported that white woman across the border, and then he forced him to leave the country, and then he went on, you know, labor disputes and everything else. True asshole, probably in the Hall of Fame.
Bud Selig.
On his way to being in the Hall of Fame, one of the great toupees of all time, one of the worst dressers, along with Carl Yastrzemski, can wear a raincoat about as good as Columbo, can sell used cars. Another asshole, probably be in the Hall of Fame.
Shoeless Joe.
Shoeless Joe had an X for a mark, couldn't write, read, and that's why he was a great hitter.
I think he
Great
owned a
hitters
bank.
don't think it, huh?
I think he ended up owning a bank.
Did he?
Yeah,
Shoeless Joe owned a bank?
I think so. I'll double check it.
Well, it doesn't, there's Eddie Shack could own a bank too, and he can't read or write. But he's a genius.
Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, little spiked-haired guy, little gerbil-like guy. He and the gerbil were raised together in Cincinnati. The gerbil's father, Pete Rose's father, gambling type guy. Everybody in Cincinnati should have been hung, according to Ulysses S. Grant and General Sherman, because as soon as their Union troops left Cincinnati, they'd go across the Ohio River and trade with the Confederates. They were all a bunch of turncoats in Cincinnati.
All right, I'm going to go to philosophical influences. In baseball, Yogi Berra and Casey Stengel are highly quoted, as are you, but you take your quotes from Buckminster Fuller. How did his work impact your way of the worldview?
That's pretty ironic. Buckminster Fuller gave his last speech at the Rose Garden in 1969 at USC. In 1969, I signed with the Boston Red Sox. He wrote the book, Limits to Growth. Actually, he wrote the book, the title is Operation Manual for Spaceship Earth in '69, which really influenced my decisions. And now, after a party on Team 990 with Mitch Milnick, I was hammered, and we had a warm front pass over Montreal just before the Christmas party, and the warm air passed over the geodesic dome where the party was, and I was out toasting my lovely wife, and a chunk of ice fell off the geodesic dome and almost killed me.
Wow. death by global warming.
Death by global warming, death by a geodesic dome, death by Buckminster Fuller. It was meant to be that day, but I sensed the warmness of the air, and I said this is a dangerous situation because the ice is going to fall off the geodesic dome. And immediately after that, tons of ice fell off the geodesic dome.
Wow.
That's why I'm smart.
Full circle.
I'm lucky, and don't whistle past cemeteries.
He was concerned about mankind's future. What do you feel mankind? I can't even say it. What percentage of do you think mankind will be around in another 50 years?
Mankind will be around in another 50 years. It's going to take that long before that next glacial age comes. And global warming does not stand a chance against entropy. Entropy is the act of wearing out. The Earth's been here a long time. The sedimentary rocks of the Grand Canyon are made from the mountains that were there before that, and then were uplifted and eroded away again. So don't worry about tomorrow, and worry about the long-term future health of the Earth. But global warming in the short term only harms Eskimos and polar bears.
All right.
And people that live on a floodplain and try to buy this new shitty territory down in North Carolina, because all we need is one good dump and one good glacier to break up, and next thing you know, you're going to be standing in 3 feet of water.
Your nickname Spaceman from your teammate Kennedy.
Yes.
But at first it wasn't considered a compliment.
No. It was never, still not. When you're a spaceman, you're out in left field, you're dizzy, you're like Dizzy Dean.
Right.
That wasn't an affectionate term. It was the fact that he was a little different, askew. In the long term, it'll be a good thing. In the short term, the spaceman image was that I was not from this planet. I was off. I was out surfacing. But basically, I had a perspective up there where I viewed things differently,
right.
And I actually had the conscience of the planet at heart, and it will be a good thing. But when he did it, the little red-ass John Kennedy, you know, I was poking fun at the space program. I said it was nothing. Chuck Yeager said an astronaut is nothing but spam in a can. And I remember that, and that was from the right stuff. So I titled my autobiography The Wrong Stuff.
Nice. And you wrote 3 books.
I'm on my 4th.
You're on
Fourth
your
book
fourth?
comes out in April. It's called Baseball Eccentrics. It will not sell a bit.
I'll buy it.
It is a great book with a bad cover.
Hey, that guy's full name is John Kennedy?
John Kennedy.
That's a tough name to have in November.
It is. Well, it is. Everybody to this day thinks it's the president that nicknamed me. They
Right.
don't know it's a little red-ass third baseman, journeyman.
All right, so baseball has gone through a number of changes, and you're on record to be a traditionalist. You're against the designated hitter. Why?
Why am I against the designated hitter? Because I'm a traditionalist, and the fact that the pitcher's got to bunt, you got to hit, the manager's got to manage, the game goes by quicker, you have inherent times to take a pitcher out of the ball
Right.
game. You don't have to do it just because a left-handed hitter up or a right-handed hitter. Games are going along too long. We got to speed pitching up. We got to make pitching better. We got to speed the games up. Don't tamper with the game too much. As Heisenberg said in his uncertainty principle, once you start examining something, you've contaminated it, and that's tampering. And tampering should give you 3 to 6 to life for an unnatural act. And you know, that's.
So as a fan and a knowledge person, which league do you prefer? American League Baseball or National League Baseball?
I prefer National League Baseball.
Because the pitcher
Because the pitcher gets to bat and the manager gets to manage. But the American League has a designated hitter, and they slow the game down, and then when they play the National League, it tends to be an advantage lately. But that doesn't necessarily justify the fact that that's better. That's not a better thing. That's specialization. As Buckminster Fuller said, specialization breeds extinction.
Nice. Which leads me to a spontaneous question. As a baseball traditionalist, isn't it unusual since the game of baseball is a product of evolution, where it evolved from a previous sport,
Rounders,
rounders. So
cricket, everybody, you know.
some would argue that the DH is just another step in the evolution process.
No,
No?
it's not, because it was brought off for the first point by the American League to lessen salaries, to lessen 2 spots on a you needed 2 less players. You didn't need another pitcher, and you didn't need another pitch hitter or utility person. So basically, they thought they could take 3 jobs off of a roster, thereby not paying 25 men, but paying 22 men. That was the #1 intent of Charles Finley, and that was what him and Bowie Kuhn did. And we filed a protest, and then we were exonerated in a federal court. It was restraint to work, basically.
The Boston Red Sox won the World Series finally, but they entered in as a wild card team. Does that taint the championship?
That's a good question. The last 4 have been wild card teams that have won the world championships. You know, the Florida Marlins were world champions. The team out of Arizona.
Right.
I was against it originally, but I find out that it is better. That it gives more teams opportunity or hope at the beginning of the season to make the playoffs. So, you know, it is an evolutionary thing, and the Red Sox should have won it in '75. You know,
Right.
when they were division champs instead of.
The starting picture.
Yeah, that's too bad. And then we could have won it in '78. We could have won it in '79, '80, and '81. I could have been on a world champion 4 years in a row. Except for stupid managing.
All right, let's talk about your barnstorming around the world.
Yeah, I barnstorm. I played across Canada. I've hit a home run in every province. I've thrown a complete game in every province. And not one Canadian out there can say he's done that. And yet, am I in the Canadian Hall of Fame in St. Mary's? No. Am I in the Red Sox Hall of Fame, being the second winningest left-hander in Red Sox history? No. Am I in the USC Hall of Fame for being the winningest left-hander in USC history and one of the winningest pitchers in USC history? No. Why? Because I am an agitator. And as H. Rap Brown said, you can't get the wash clean unless you agitate it a little bit.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up shortly, but I just want to know
It's a good inning, yeah?
of your barnstorming. As a barnstormer, you mentioned this yesterday to me, but
Yeah.
you've never been to Japan to play.
I haven't. I was supposed to go against Kumagai in '69 with the Alaska Gold Panthers, but I did not go. I was playing pro ball. I actually have played in Japan,
Okay.
but I have played softball there with a traveling team. I've played in Korea. I hit a 3-run homer in Okinawa, and every Marine stood up and saluted me because the cannon went off and they were playing taps. It was amazing. I was the only guy moving. I was running around, and all these Marines were like that, and I thought they were saluting me. But yeah, I've played all around the world. I played in the Soviet Union. I played in
How was it like
Cuba.
playing in the Soviet Union?
Soviet Union was a unique experience.
What year?
That would be 1988, 89, before the wall came down. In fact, I shut the Soviet team out on 2 consecutive days. Actually, Thursday, off Friday, beat them 9 innings, 2-hit shutout on Saturday, and the wall came tumbling down.
Wow. That's great. Wow. In right after being released from the Expos,
Yes.
your teammate Warren Cromartie was in Japan. Did you occur to join the Japanese league?
I tried to join the Japanese league, but a guy named Kappy Harada was the liaison for Major League Baseball, and he would not, through the commissioner's office, allow me to go to Japan.
Which commissioner was it?
That would be Bowie Kuhn also.
Right.
And I was not allowed to play after I was released from the Expos. And not one team gave me a contract or offered it up. I had a tryout in '84 with the AAA Giants
Right.
through Martin Stone, a nice, informative, intuitive owner that tried to buy the Red Sox. But when Haller and the Giants found out I was there, I was released after only 10 innings of work, and never had a chance to come back. So the history's out there.
Okay. Two more questions?
Sure.
All right. How and why can someone get thrown out of a Moncton, New Brunswick baseball team? They're just fiddleheaders.
I know. Well, there was a writer from up on the Miramichi, and he wrote an article based on Ralph Chambers' description of me. And Chambers is the guy who had me kicked off the ball club because he was jealous. And we were playing in the Canadian Championships, and he did a bonehead move after Real Cormier got knocked out of a ball game. I came in and threw relief after beating Manitoba the day before, and Chambers came in a close game and hit a guy named Cooper, who was the top player for Tecumseh. And Cooper got into a fight with me at first base, and I went to Chambers and I said, that was a stupid bonehead move. And he says, you don't like the way I manage, you don't like the way I play, why don't you quit? And I said, well, I quit. And so I got on a bus with an Indian that fought on that oil rig off of Nova Scotia, and all his buddies were killed. And I went back to Edmonton and flew home to Moncton, and I was kicked off the ball club. But I was already gone, as they say in the Eagles say. In the Eagles song, he was already gone. And that's the story there. People didn't get my version. They got Ralph Chambers' version. But I had pitched 9 innings the day before. I threw 4 innings in relief. I pitched my ass off for Moncton. And Ralph Chambers is a jealous little son of a bitch.
Summer 2007. Are you going to be barnstorming?
Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Ralph. Huh?
Are you going to be barnstorming?
I'll be playing. I'll be playing, and I hope I get to play Moncton Mets, and Chambers will play, and I'll drill his sorry ass.
Excellent.
I remember the time we were playing. I was playing for Nova Scotia, and playing for McCachran, and I had the Walcott brothers, Richie and the other Walcott, the 2 black kids that played for Whitney Pier, with Chester Borden playing shortstop, and we were playing Moncton, and Chambers, I drilled him, and Chambers just took it and stuff, and then Richie Walcott was at third base, and he would have pounded sand up his ass. He was a forcer in the AHL.
Wow, excellent.
Right, Ralph?
He never puts on anything.
I know. I was going to ask him one question, but we'll turn off the camera for that one. So
That's all right. You doesn't mean anything. I tell you, I'm already.
It's different for his plans.
No, I know, but this one I saw in the headlines, Jocks for Justice. Can you tell me a little bit about that in your association?
Oh, that's David Zurin, who wrote the book, What's My Name, Fool? And he's a great guy out of Washington, D.C. And, there's a lot of people that have been mistreated from Peltier all the way down the line. And you've got Carlos, you've got Evans, you've got Tommy Smith, people that were blackballed from the '68 Olympics. And it's just a bunch of conscientious guys, Dave Megacy, myself, and people that are really athletes that want to stick up for people that are less fortunate than ourselves. And Zurin is he would be the spiritual head of our organization right now.
Nice. All right, so before we go, what would you like, one word of advice or one phrase of advice to the next generation of ball players?
Wow, if I was going to give advice to the kids growing up, I'd say play hard, watch your diet, love the game, throw strikes, keep the ball down, don't alibi, hustle.
Perfect. Excellent. That was great. Thank you.
Good. That's great.
That was awesome.